morning to all of you. Welcome to this Ultra Sarjana talk. And I'm Nyuk Ling from the Faculty of Engineering. And today's talk will be on Publish and Flourish. So it's good to be here, and it's good to see you. How many of you are from UPN? And how many of you? Okay, almost all. Is there anyone not from UPN? Yes, one here, two there. Right, from Utah. So we had the email circulation, and we came to know about it. And what about you? IUKL, Infrastructure University. Okay, thanks for being here. Some introduction about myself. As said, my name is Nyuk Ling. I come from the Process and Food Engineering Department. So my talk on publishing, most of the examples may come from my field, but at the same time I try to cover slightly more general things, rules of publication, what are the usual expectations of publication and the needs, right? If at any time, at any point, you have any queries, please feel free to stop me and ask questions. Okay? So, okay, yes, please find a seat and we shall start. Any concerns or anything, please raise. Otherwise, we start. Okay. Well, this place is not very friendly because I cannot just cross over and go nearer to you. Okay, never mind. Okay, there are still more coming in. Okay, find a seat, make yourself comfortable. This is more of a sharing session of what I have been doing for the past, 11 plus 3, 4, almost 14, 15 years in research and also publication. So we have someone from Utah, and you may be an academic researcher or a staff attached to a different university and you're doing your PhD research here. You may even have longer experience than me, right? So it's more of like a sharing session. But back to this. Why do I publish? I'm sure all of you want to publish, are publishing, or about starting to publish, and that is the reason you are here. Am I right? Yes. But the reasons to publish, there are many. I publish because of my work need. I publish because I simply want to have a paper. I publish because my friends are publishing, or maybe in UPN, I publish because I want my degree. So there can be so many reasons. There can be so many types of needs that you want to publish. But if you are very into publishing, you have to put, well, I talk about noble publishing, right? It's very important to put our mindset correct, align it before we start to do anything else. Okay, just a simple example, not very attractive example. I go to university because going to university is a must and a basic degree is expected out of everyone. Therefore, I go to the university. But in actual, the 3 or 4 years that you spend in the university, you do not maximize the time and find meaning out of it, then that 3-4 years will be less fruitful to you. And you have spent that 4 years. So similarly, for publishing, if you ask me, I say there must be a pure intention of why you want to publish. So if you start with the right mindset, I'm sure the output, the quality that you get will be good. Not simply because I have I would like to have one entry in the Scopus citation, therefore I'm doing it. And because I have some data, so I want to put it into paper. Okay, all those could be the side reasons. But the main reason is you publish because you want to generate new information and you want to contribute to the field that you are working on. Now, whatever reasons that you have, I'm not going to ask you one by one, oh, please tell me, and then I make a conclusion. Well, whichever reason or whatever background you come from, if before you start, read a line a little bit, tell yourself, I publish because I want to contribute to the academia. And because this is worth knowing by the rest of the people who do not know. Therefore, it will help to steer your intention and it will help to build some more good quality in your output. Right? So, if you have seen prominent professors and real academicians, sometimes they have results which they don't feel like publishing yet. It's because simply they think it's not time yet, and it's because they are not that confident about it yet. Now, I have been working here for almost 12 years now as a lecturer, and I feel like this mentality is on the lower side. Most people publish because they want papers. This is the general perception and observation that I have. Now, even among my own students sometimes, right? And not to say, this is even more critical among staffs, academic staffs. I try not to go beyond, because this talk is supposed to be postgraduate students. I'm supposed to motivate you to build good papers and publish. How many staffs, academic staffs are here? Okay, a minority. If you take it like some sharing, most friends, academic colleagues, right? Some of them could be competing publication for the number, and at times it's not very elegant, I call it. But put that aside. For you, you are brand new, you are entering into an academic career, have your position right, have your mental approach right in terms of publication, and I'm sure it will be a long, enjoyable route in the future. Because if you have not set your mind correctly from the beginning, you'll find all sorts of ways and means to get publication, but it's not bringing you anywhere. Okay, so why do I publish? Because I want to contribute the information that I have to the researchers and scientists in my field. Set the tone right. Okay? If you have any other side reasons, it may come later and impart into it depending on your environment, depending on your needs. Okay, the title given to me was Publish and Flourish. Flourish means you grow well, you excel, etc. It's a positive term, a positive phrase, right? Now, simply meant to motivate you. It's actually something nice. It's something to look forward to, because in publication, in the process of publishing, as an academic, we learn a lot. We get matured a lot, right? Now, as opposed to the phrase publish and perish. If you Google up in the internet, okay, in Wikipedia, you will find publish and perish, not publish and publish or perish. Sorry, publish or perish, not publish and flourish. Now, simply because to show you the impact in academic, if you don't publish, you will not have a good career. You will perish. So it is lengthily explained why is it perish. So young and dynamic organization or universities, right? So if your organization is very emphasizing on publication, then they may use publish and or perish. So they say it's a must, right? So back to publish and flourish, we will move to the points on if you can publish well, if you have good publication, it helps in your career a lot. Because publication gets you to international level. So, basic things like it's a need in academia to rapidly and continuously publish your academic work. Now, you could be doing research in your laboratory, you could be conducting social science researches where you have case studies, you have very excellent results. At the same time, if you do not publish, they will just remain in the theses and resting on the shelf. So at times, it's good for you to reiterate what are the points, what are the conclusions, what are the messages, and transmit it to the public. Yeah? But back to my very initial slide and statement here, that is the genuine thought of why it needs to be there. In academic, most of you doing Masters and PhD could have a thought to continue your career as a lecturer, as a scientist, or maybe postdoctoral positions for research. So publication is a must before even you get the job. So you can see how many papers you have in your CV, how many good papers, those cited, impact factor for example, are in the CV. So that will be the benchmark of how good researcher you are. Of course, the next phase will be into what journal and the quality of the journal, right? Partially, it also demonstrates your academic talent, how good you are with the information and the findings that you have, and also to facilitate continued funding for scholarly and their institutions. The challenges that the lecturers and scientists have is, well, if they do not have enough financial support, you have difficulty getting students, you have no money to buy research materials, and there will be a lot of restrictions to other development of your research career. So when you present proposals in the committee, Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Science, or the outside funding bodies, it's very important. They will look at who is the project leader or principal investigator, led by who. So a lot of times you can have excellent project, it's just because your background is not there. They will say that they reserve their confidence in you. Therefore, they do not give you the money. So that could be a main reason with our Malaysian environment actually. So for those staffs or lecturers who want to diverse into a different field, have some publication in that particular field first, and then you stand a position, you have some position to say, well, I need more money in this field because I'm going to expand further, right? Now, for most of you students, I suppose the very beginning, you will use your PhD degree or master's degree as a stepping stone. Expand something from what you have been doing 3-4 years at the very early stage of your career. So, if you're publishing the right manner, the good way, you get your fame in your field. Alright? On the other hand, if you publish poor work, it's the same. You tarnish your own reputation. Now this is bound to happen, especially in this era, because everything is accessible through the internet. By just one click of search in the Scopus, your identification of yourself as a researcher came out all in a list up to the years of so and so. So, say you were desperately looking for one and working on one journal paper when you were a student, and you didn't care about the accuracy of the data and the presentation. Somehow it gets through publication and it become a paper. It's a Scopus with impact factor maybe, right? Guess what? 30 years down the road, 30 years down the road, maybe when you become a professor and you start coaching students, right? Your student will be assessing your paper. What happens then? Oh dear, the student might be seeing some, if it's good work, excellent, right? If it's a lousy work and you are a professor, how? Can you erase that? I don't think so. So that is going to be not too appealing. Do you agree? Yes. So the same advice I have given to my own student, to tell them things may look small on a perspective now at the student level, but things eventually become bigger. Yeah? Small things but bigger impact as you go on. So be very careful with this. And it is therefore, as a student, your responsibility to make sure there's no typing error, there's no spelling mistake, and there's no wrong data, and there is no wrong legend. All these are very small, tiny little things of a paper. A figure, for example, yeah, with wrong keys, with wrong symbols, right? They will remain there forever. This is what I'm trying to exaggerate a little bit because some may not see this yet because currently they don't see themselves as a professor yet. If you are in the academic, yeah, being a professor is the ultimate point for most people because of some recognition and etc. Be it what reason. So this seminar will help us to underline what are the approaches and what are the ethics in academic publication. Yeah? You can approach it your way because there is no fixed way. I remember saying to people, you know, when you talk to a bunch of PhD holders, you probably have a tough time defending the point because everybody simply loves talking and defending their own point. There is no right or wrong, it's just a matter of being different. So, if you go to your supervisor, main supervisor, he or she prefers you to write a thesis this way. Okay? And when you see your second supervisor, he or she has a different approach. It's not wrong, both are not wrong, it's just that which one you are comfortable with and which one you think is better for yourself. Right? Back to basics. The original mapping, the original structure, how differing it is, it should be there. This is what we are going to get to today. Well, many more coming in. I've just briefly and finished actually introducing the needs of publication, the need of publishing. Those who are a little late, just one line summary. We publish with the start of a right thought, which is to contribute academic information, right? Not for the sake of having paper. If you have the intention of having more paper, there's nothing wrong, you can have that intention, but don't forget about the intention of contributing good academic contents. So, what I shall be covering today is on the introduction to you about the different types of academic publication. Yeah? Remember, academic publication. I'm not writing for an article in the newspaper. I'm not writing for an article in the magazine. Okay, those are called popular writing. Now we are talking about journals, books, chapters. So what are the basic rules of writing? Some information on manuscript preparation and submission. What are the methods now? Yeah, back then in the 90s, when I was a student, okay, we do not have that much of online submission. But today, I would say 90% of the papers are online submission using the portal system. So, computer is a must, right? And knowing how to plot knowing how to use the software is going to be an advantage. Okay? And then manuscript review. What happens after you have submitted the paper? What happens behind the screen? You don't see it because you are an author. After submission, you just sit there, wait for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months for the results, right? So a lot of things are taking place at the point of editor and in the reviewing process. Okay? Now, after that, you get a reply. It can be positive. Wow, you feel very happy for the day. And it also could be negative, where they say, no, we are not that interested in your piece of work. You can submit it elsewhere. Yeah? That kind of reply is more common for all of us, even for me. Okay? So what should you do then? Yeah? What is the next step? Should you just say, oh, okay, I'll just give it a side look on a different one? Yeah? You can do that if you want. Yeah? Or there are other ways to approach it, different way. So how do we go about rebutting it? That means making it better, or if it has been accepted, it comes with some instruction of corrections or some queries. How are we to answer them? Okay? So that will be post-rejection or post-steps, which are reject or acceptance. Even when the paper is accepted, you have a lot to do. Yeah? It's not the end of the story yet, because there starts a proofreading stage and a copyright transfer and etc. So, just for introduction of types of publication, I'm sure all of you are familiar. Journals. Journals are research papers, usually research papers or research articles. Okay, and this is also what we target most as researcher, because this is an important count for our CV. Next will be proceeding. Proceeding comes from a collection of those presentations that you go for in oral or poster presentations in conferences, usually proceedings. So proceedings are also advancing nowadays, because some of the proceedings are indexed, and if you find it to be indexed in Scopus, yeah, some of them are in the database itself. So these are called the quality proceeding. Okay, and in the conduct of international conferences, right, whichever, there are many types. Okay, you can have the so-called local international conference. You can have the international conference. Do you get what I mean? Okay. Everyone loves to use the word international. Okay, but if you ask me, I'm sharing with you what I have encountered very frankly. Okay, giving you information very directly. You know, engineer, we get straight to the point. Okay, if you ask me about local international conferences, somehow, they are still local. Okay, even if they carry the title international. Okay, those real international, I don't think this English is right, but you get the meaning. International conferences are those grand conferences organized by the professional associations, and they are regularly done every 2 years, every 3 years, and so on and so forth. And there is a committee handling it. And people handling it are not the part-time people, so-called, like, for example, my department in my faculty, together with the department, are organizing a conference. Okay? Now, my full-time is lecturing, but I also involved heavily in organizing the conference. So how much time can I really spend answering emails of every delegate? What is the deadline? Can I extend the deadline? This is that. So for sure, I have limited time to attend to those, because I do not have a full-time secretary to take care of it. So somehow, you will find that Not to blame the local international conference have got no standard or lower standard, simply because the human resource doesn't allow us to be that attentive and that close. Whereas, in my area, for example, in food processing, there is this Institute of Food Science and Technology worldwide, and they have offices in the Europe, in the America, and also in the Asia. And these people are working full-time for this association. And these people are the main driver of an international conference, assisted by or in collaboration with selected universities at the different conference, different time or different years of the conference. This is because they need to tap on academic expertise and the academic network to get the speakers. Now, some of the members in these institutes are maybe also members, professional members from these societies or association. So this international conference, a lot of time, especially now, okay, in the late 2-3 years, I see that there is a trend. They partner up with very prominent publishers. Who are the publishers that you are familiar with? Can I? No? Because maybe in your area, in my area, Elsevier, Springer, Sage, Taylor and Francis, Lancet, okay. So, Lancet and Stage and Science Writing, I am less familiar. Okay, maybe because of my work. Maybe Lancet is very good in your area. Okay, I am familiar with Elsevier, okay, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, Springer. These are the few that I always try. So back to what I say about international conferences. Now this organization who really have good, prominent capability of organizing conferences, they tag along with publishers now. And they are the same set of people actually, because the editor could be holding some position in the association, or the association contacted those famous journals, yeah, to find a special issue. So you find that one way to get your publication through is through international conferences, whereby your submitted paper has a chance to be in the special issue. Okay? These are the very high aim ones. Okay, I put in inverted commas. And then you also have conferences which tag along to the level, not publication in general, but publication in procedure. I think for the past 5 years, it started but very slowly, but it's picking up now. Elsevier has this collection of procedure where international conference organizers can contact them, yeah, engage in them, and use their procedure as a proceeding for their conference. Okay? So many conferences are working that way because they know this is the way to attract participants. Okay? Okay. The other one that we had in the early 2000s, early 20s, the year, maybe when I was very young and fresh graduate, fresh lecturer, what is common is we have those international, local conference, but international, name international. They have proceeding by themselves. They print it. Yeah, all papers that they have, they will accept it. Yeah, some are very good, some are not so good. They still print it as a proceeding, and they apply for their own ISBN number. That is the publication for the book. Okay. You can attach with the university press, or you can go to the National Library and request for one. So it's also a proceeding. So today the trend is proceeding is has less weightage than a journal paper, much less, You know, in universities, some even say when you are a lecturer, 5 or 6 proceedings equivalent to 1 journal paper. There are things like that, measurements like that. But at your stage now as a student, you are not worried about that. Your main worry or main thing that you should look for is a good material, good paper, or best paper in the context at your time. Okay? I cannot actually expect a student to publish something of the level of professor. So I have to be fair too, right? So at your stage, you make sure this mistake, best presentable paper, and so on. So back to the international conferences, it is one way when we can get our publication through. But be careful, be very careful. Once you have this material in the proceeding, whether it's the international conference or local international conference, all of them will be in print. Once they are in print, you cannot use back the same material for journal. Okay? It's forbidden. That means tidak dibenarkan langsung, means cannot. If that is to be found out, or it maybe happens, but if there are people who really want to take action on it, you are at any position, no position. Because it's done, it's printed, the proof is solid. So sometimes, for example, very senior professors, they go for conferences, they will say, I will just come and speak for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, about my field and about what I'm doing, but I do not wish to have any abstract or do not wish to have any extended paper or whatsoever, because they do not want it to appear yet. They are targeting for better and more quality journals, because you couldn't have the same thing in both places. So at a stage, very much later, you will reach that stage. So now that you have this information at a very early stage of career, yeah, it's good, it's good. And no one tells me anything about this. I figure out myself, right? Now, some sharing about my background. I went to the UK for my PhD degree, okay? And I learned a lot from my supervisor, and today I'm very thankful to him. But when I was a student, I didn't think so good about him. Really, I thought, this person, I just want to get my work done and leave. That was the exact feeling that I had. I had a lot of tough times. Sometimes I cannot really understand why he is behaving so peculiar, or unexplainable, okay? I wanted to publish something because back then I was already a tutor or staff, so publication will help in my career. I thought so going up to him, can I go to this conference? And he said, no. And he will say, yeah, we will see how. Okay? And then he doesn't get back to me, and I have no answer, I have no idea, and I do not know what he is thinking about. And every time when I send him something, okay, of course it comes back with a lot of comments. To me at the time I was a student, they are all hanging comments. Hanging comments means I do not know what he wants. Okay? He will just wriggle at the bottom and then put a question mark. And then he will just circle the words without telling me why he's circling it. Now, today, I think most of you are extremely fortunate. Because you know what I do to my students? I help them to correct their manuscripts. Back then, if I do not prepare the manuscript up to the level that is presentable, it stays there and it remains there and it doesn't move. Until when you can get one out, ready to be sent out, then you will look at it. That is truth. That is truth. Today, your supervisors, some will help more, some will help less. Nonetheless, they are still helping you. So it is a bonus that you get today that you should even perform and produce better papers with the help of the supervisor. No doubt, back to my own experience and my background and my case, I am very thankful to him for what he has done for me. Because today, I can write independently. if I have the time. Okay? Put in clause, because when it comes to writing, I need to have the peace. Okay? If I write half an hour, someone knocking onto the door, and the next hour someone telling me the lab is not working, and another hour come and tell me all the samples are destroyed because no electricity. How do you think I can write? That is the problem, right? So this little bit things will be covered also when I get into the details. But my main point is that writing comes from you. You can't depend on your supervisor forever. Somehow you have to make a point and squeeze through the bottleneck and work on it, progress on it until you have the passport. So make sure within this 1 year, 2 years, 3 years while you are still a student, make the most out of your status as a student to learn this writing, to brush up this writing so that by the time you graduate getting your PhD scroll, you can function as an independent lecturer and start writing and coaching your students. Okay? So it's a long way, 3 years that you have. So it is very important now that you start. You start now. Because I just can't imagine there are a lot of lacking in our students nowadays. That is why this talk is being organized. Lacking means now, if you, as the main author, and possess the ownership of the work, do not even care about the tidiness of your manuscript in terms of tables, in terms of arrangement of the whatsoever, all those tiny little things. What I mean is the neatness and the presentation outlook of the paper. Who else is going to help you to take care of all those things? Do you agree? Those small little jobs like editing, okay? A presentable table, okay? You have tables with titles and contents which are not aligned. And some are aligned to the left, some are aligned to the right. Simply, even my own students give me those problems, right? So train yourself from the very early stage, yeah, to take care of all those things. Okay? Now this is just writing papers, yeah. When you only produce materials, well, manuscript single spacing about 30 to 40 pages, what happens one day if you are asked to write a book or a chapter? Nobody will have to type edit for you. You have to do it yourself. And if things are not presentable, people just don't look at it. Okay? So those are journals. I have lengthy explanation about proceedings, how proceedings have evolved today, right? Partnership with publishers and moving into procedure and so on. And then we also have academic publishing in the form of books, magazines, and letters. So for magazines and letters, they are technical magazines. For example, those association, they have regular publication. So your article and your writing tend to be technical, but not too dull and not too specific. So the coverage is attractive. You try to gain entry to the more common pool of readers or the people who are not in the field. At the same time, you have contents to show your contents, your actual stuff, your technical stuff. For books, of course, if you have a lot of data, by the time you have 10 years experience, you can actually build a chapter, or maybe you have more and more things, you can actually conclude it in a book. Okay, and to write book, it's very easy. Sometimes when you already have the experience, you don't go to the publisher and request and say, I want to start a book, I want to write a book. They will contact you themselves. Hey, dear Professor so-and-so, with this, you find that you could be suitable in this. Are you interested? Question mark. You get invitation. Very easy, they will just search about your background in the academic profile, and they will know who you are. With one or two recommendations from the people or the very senior professors internationally, you easily get invitation. So, how to get this invitation? You have to start right. Okay, you have to be producing things that people admire and people follow and people think is contributing to the area of research. Then you get the invitation. Otherwise, it'll be difficult. Okay, same thing with magazine. So, in my field, you see this ICOBT, Eurosense, A Sense of Life. All these are conferences, international conferences, partnering with Elsevier. Okay, it's not easy, yeah? Because recently I submitted my abstract to these conferences. You have to say, yeah, I would like to participate in the conference. Guess what? I get rejection twice from 2 different conferences. Why? If I want to participate, if I am thinking of getting my paper through that channel, so do other people. So there are so many, and for one conferences, usually about 2 to 3 days. Say you have 2 to 3 parallel slots. How many papers can you feed for everybody around the world? Yeah, from Alaska up to New Zealand. So many, okay? So maybe my work was so-so, and I was just submitting something that is so-so because I'm reserving the better ones for journal, therefore being rejected. It's because the slots are limited. So bear in mind, what I'm sharing with you about my experience is to tell you, don't expect it's going to be easy either. Yeah, it must be good. And at times, for this type of conference, because they only organize it once in every 2 years, yeah, to make the conference really powerful and impactful, they determine the speaker. Not simply anyone who is a PhD candidate going there for a practice of how to speak for 15 minutes. No. Yeah, they really have people who have more than 10 years experience, right? The presentation, the contents of their talk is a summary and has important messages about current and future. So these are the selected ones. So, and then you have this Druter is an example of magazine in my field, in engineering. Okay, you see this one. So they have special issues on environmental engineering. So they also have one on the food engineering or agriculture engineering whatsoever. And this is the Science of Bakery Products, the book by itself. It's all talking about a very specific research on bakery and the science of baking, for example. And then this is Innovative Food Science and Emerging Technology. It's a journal, full-fledged. Full-fledged means already have enough history in terms of number of years and volume, already very established, and usually all this type of journal will end up in Q1. How many of you are familiar with Q1, 2, 3, and 4? Have you heard of? Yes, okay. So you find that Q1 and 2 journals are the better journals. Most people like to go for it because they have better impact factor. Yeah, mainly dictated by the impact factor. So it's harder, much harder, and really need to be good stuff. So this is what I meant full-fledged. Okay? So some of you, if you think your work is just so-so, you identify to go for journals which are younger. I call it virgin. So maybe they only have 1 or 2 years after being recognized by Scopus, and then have Thomson ISI impact factor maybe. So these are younger journals. So they could be relatively easier. Okay. So for this particular exercise, I am focusing more on journal papers because that will be the main substance. Okay? So that will be the main course. Okay, talking about food. So types of journal papers here, you can see I classify them into 4 types. Okay. I do not know if this sweeps across different fields of social science or the medic, but in general, in science, and especially in engineering, yeah, we have these four types. Number one, research papers. You find this most common. 75 to 85% of all papers published are research papers. Now, the properties, yeah, the features of this paper is usually it explains about one experiment, okay, a specific finding, okay. Sometimes it could be method-based, sometimes it could be subject-based. Subject-based means, okay, for example, there is this new species of food which is very uncommon but give very, very good impact to the society in terms of health and nutrition. It's not available elsewhere. So you are doing this research and you call this novel because this is an unresearched material. That you can try to push your novelty towards that point if you want. So this could be one, which is called a subject-based. In terms of method-based, say you develop or devise a technology or approach of analysis, okay, and differing from the standard method, this could be a method-based. Now both of these two have different functions and values, and they also have different weightage in terms of consideration by the editor. Okay? Now, you are author. You are an author. You sit at the side. Okay? Here I have a screen. Now the editors are at the other side. You have your aim. You want it to get published. I do not care who reads it as long as I get it published. At the editor aim, they don't care about your publication. Their job is to make sure the journal improves in ranking. How does the journal improve in ranking? It's by getting more citations and more citations, genuine citations, I would say, and therefore, yeah, in terms of these calculations, which they have the formula by the Thomson or Scopus whatsoever, then the ranking will increase. Now, if the ranking increases, the editor has done a good job. Okay? So, if you know the aim of the editor, you try to put their aim as part of yours, then it makes your life easier. It makes your entry easier. So, when it is method-based, it will give you, well, it may give you more opportunity of getting more citation. It's because of disregard of any materials you are experimenting, say measuring sugar content, okay? It's just a standard method. If you have devised another method which is more economical, using less chemical, shorter time and more accurate, you think everyone else measuring sugar content will be interested in your method? So the citation, indirectly or directly, will be higher. So if you are publishing something on methods, right? The editor, me as editor, I give a slightly more preference. Okay? And if you're publishing something like, okay, in our Hujan Tropika, we have a lot of big biodiversity. Say I found a particular flower, and this flower can be eaten. Okay, it's very good. It's very good because this flower, if you plant more and you make it as a crop, later then it will sell. Then it will help the people because it has medicinal value whatsoever. But again, even though it's very, very excellent, it is just confined to the people here in this climate, in this region. So me, as an editor, I will think twice, even though it's excellent. So sometimes your work could be extremely good, but if you go for a journal based in the US or Europe, you simply don't get the attention because of this reason. So in that case, you go for the best journal in the region, ASEAN region, yeah, in the region of maybe Pacific, Asia Pacific, there are also good journals handled by this region. More and more now, especially India, Japan. I think Sage is Japan, right? Is Sage publication based in Japan? You don't know. Yeah. So these people now have already advanced to a stage of handling international journals with international ranking. Okay, so you could target this region, this type of journals. Okay, not because of your research is not very good, but it's because of the coverage by the international reader. And then the next we have review papers. It's not that easy to write the review. I'll put 2 comments to review papers. It's not easy to write a review paper. It can also be extremely easy to write a review paper. You'll find I'm talking nonsense. It's not nonsense actually. Okay. Review papers. If you have done your research and you have read so much and you have so much information that after defending your viva, you wish to comment and critique. You want to synthesize all the information that you have and give a general conclusion. Well, go for review papers. It's very good because it also helps you to collect your mind. Sometimes as a lecturer, you have to see where is our next step, where is possibility of novelty. That's what we're searching for. So when I say it's tough, it's because you need to have the experience and that wide coverage over a duration of time. Okay, what about the super easy one, for review papers? There are many students who are very hardworking. Okay. Before they start the project, maybe they spend 6-8 months really reviewing thoroughly before they really plan their own experiment. They have so much information that they have not started their experiments and there are so many hiccups, that means problems. For us, we have to set up the experimental week, we have to find people to commission, and then we have to buy materials before we can actually start the experiment. By the time you start the experiment, maybe you're already in the year 3 of your PhD. That is very common for us, yeah? It's very common because the equipment and the rigs are expensive. Sometimes surprises come along the way, okay? Funding get cut, and suddenly funding get disapproved after being approved. I see our doctor there, our lecturer from Utah, he's nodding his head. These are all our difficult parts. So back to these students who have done ample research, still waiting to start the experimental work, embark on writing a review paper. You're not alone, you have a supervisor, tap on his or her expertise to help you to revise the paper and make it more oomph. It means if you drink teh tarik, you know what's teh tarik? Some people say they want kau means thick. So you can prepare one. You have time. Your supervisor doesn't have the time. Okay? You give him or her the content. You collect everything. Of course, if you can, you work it out yourself. But if you can't, you get back to your supervisor, ask him or her to give you the flavor. Okay? Now, I'll move into the tips of publishing later on how to put flavor in your journal. Your journal cannot be a plain paper to say, this is the result, this is the result, this is therefore the conclusion. Nobody will be interested in that. Then you must have a message in every journal, every paper. Okay, so it's more of a summary and a synthesis. That means collection or summarize. Okay, it can be in the form of critiques and so on and so forth. If you write paper which critiques, be very, very careful to see who are you commenting here, because they could be associated elsewhere, working on the same thing, and one day when you need their help for supporting some of the things, it will be difficult. Yeah, the world is small. The world is small, especially in the field that you're working in. So beware and be cautious about that. And then we have short communication. Short communication is like those things that you found quite initially and that you do not want to write lengthily about it because you have some reasons to it. For example, you want to patent it. For example, you want to what else? You have a different plan for the IP. IP means intellectual property. So you will go for short communication. So something like I tell you something, it's roughly around this. Okay, it has some good things in it, and that's it. So usually this short communication is short. This short communication, short by itself. Okay, if a journal paper, single spacing in journal printed form, you have 5 to 6 pages. This is probably just 1 to 2 page. Yeah, and then we have a special issue. Of course, this relates to the ties with conferences, and sometimes, for example, the Elsevier Procedia now is at the level of paper. They can be called a journal, but with the title Procedia. Instead of Journal of Food Engineering, it becomes now Procedia in Food Engineering, but it is also a paper. Okay? Its volume number, identification, everything is pure graduated stuff. Okay, and special issue, why do I have an editor there? Special issues depends very much of the editor in charge, right? Usually less, quote unquote, I put it less reviewed because the reviewing committee is around the scrutiny of the editor alone. So this is just to show you communication. This is a short paper. A short paper, you see, this is 3 pages, yeah? This is 3 pages. Okay. Now what happened to this paper is because in the beginning I submitted for a full paper. Okay. And there were 3 times of reviews, 3 cycles of reviews. Okay, and the editor suggested to shorten it and put it as a short communication. Therefore, it's a bit long because it didn't start as a communication. For me, it started as a journal paper. So from 6 to 7 pages, I shortened it to 2 to 3 pages. So you just imagine the amount of work needed after it received comment. And it's not just 1 review, 2 reviews and 3 reviews. Very extensive work required. So submitting your paper into the portal system, yeah, is not the aim. A lot more to go. It becomes back with comments. So this is a short communication, 3 pages. Okay. This is a full paper. You will see now 10 pages. 972, 982. 10 papers. Okay, this is a review paper having a look at the title, a review on the rheological properties and measurements of dough and gluten. It's a review. So to write review, now you as a student, you can do it because that is a very easy way of writing. Like I say, by just collecting information, yeah, creating a table, listing all the things, all the researchers, yeah, give some flavor to it. Okay, what happens before the 90s? What happens after the millennium? How has the trend of research gone to? All these are reviewed. Okay, we do not. My supervisor used a word that I would like to share with you called stamp collecting. He says that in publication we do not collect stamps. That means I have stamp from Nigeria, I have stamp from South Korea, I have stamp from Malaysia. So I arrange according to the country. Okay, the people in Africa did this research, the people in Asia did this research. It's very boring. Okay, so you have to find some conclusion, some information out of those that are from Africa. What are their trends? What is the inclination? Those that are from Asia region, why are they different? Is it due to the climate or is it due to the culture, for example? So these are the things that are good and it sounds good to the editor because you can reach. You give your own information rather than being a stamp collector. So stamp collector type of paper is maybe for the undergraduate writing. But for masters and PhD, move on from that. after you have the stamps, what do the stamps tell you? Oh, I see that all the stamps coming from Malaysia is all either flora or fauna based. They love to put pictures of flowers, they love to put pictures of insects, for example. And maybe those coming from other country, I've noticed that all their stamps reflect technology like buildings or people. You know, those stamps from England, they like to use their king or their queen. I mean, not a very good example. I have left stamp collecting since 8 years old. So I do not know what is the trend, but this is to give you an example on how to approach your writing. More to collecting stamps, that means you have to comment about the stamps, the pictures, the shapes, the size. Okay? Any questions so far? The mode and the conduct of this seminar okay for you? Clear? Stop me at any page. Yes?
Yeah, so it happens that when the student, for instance, the researcher...
You want to use the mic so that everyone can hear you?
I say it happens that when a student or a researcher or a student researcher submits a paper to a journal and submits a paper to a conference,
Okay.
a paper to a conference. It actually happened to me. So, say a 20-page paper
Okay.
to a conference. Conference now say, okay, it's too much, we want to have the proceeding, the paper, in a proceeding, right? And the agreed page limit. Let's say every paper that will appear in the proceeding should be 6 pages. So I now reduce the paper from 20 pages to 6 pages. We have a lot of the work. Now, what happens? The paper, that beach version was approved for the proceedings, for the conference. Now the organizers of the conference now forwarded the main paper, 20-page stuff, to another journal. The journal said review the thing to not more than 15 pages. I did. Now the two papers still maintain same heading.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So what happens to the status of the paper as in going to academic or even the academic? What happens in terms of citing those papers for my progress in academic work, promotion and stuff like that?
What's your name? Where are you from?
From FBNK.
Yeah, Malgaji from FBNK.
PhD.
Biology, molecule.
No, about Bahasa Modern.
Bahasa modern. Okay. The question forwarded by our friend here is really interesting, which is something to be discussed with you. Okay. What he has experienced is going to get more common, and you can see more cases like this on. Before I answer you very in detail, I'll give you a general answer, then we discuss greatly about this because my main agenda has to finish first.
Okay.
Along the way, when I finish my agenda, you think about what I say here, which is what sort of publisher and conference organizer are you dealing with? Then you will have a clue how it goes and why it goes like that, and can it go like that. So I can feel maybe at your side you have a little sense of insecurity. I don't know what these people is doing with my work. Yeah, I didn't have the intention now that you post it somewhere else and things like that. Now, he actually brought up something very important, which I may relate it to ethics later on, because this sort of thing, sometimes as a researcher, as an author, to a certain extent, we need to have some measure to protect ourselves. If you want to, okay? If you do not want, it's okay. You can go on freely doing this because you have more publication. You have one in proceeding, you have one in the book chapter. Well, that's good. But if you want that, not everybody wants that. Okay? And why you want that and why you don't want that is something to be discussed. Okay? We will get back to that. We'll get back to that. Things for you to ponder is, who are you dealing with? Who are they? Who are they? Why does this happen? Okay. Back to my main agenda, rules of writing. I have even talked about writing thesis, and this is more or less similar, but bet you writing paper is tougher than writing thesis. Because thesis, only 3 persons read it, 2 examiners, or in some university just 3 examiners in UPM, or maybe in other universities just 2 examiners. Okay. And this examiner, I cannot speak so loud. This examiners, okay, are so called obliged. You know what's obliged? To read your thesis. Okay, obliged to read your thesis. Okay. Somehow, as a lecturer, we have our level of professionalism. Okay, we have to act accordingly. Somehow, you know, things are very subjective. Okay, so more or less only read by 3 people. Okay, and you do not pay money to publish because the printing is your own cost, right? You go to the photocopy shop, you can print as many copies as you want, you pay for it. Whereas when it comes to journals, okay, why my paper from 6 to 7 pages, they ask me to shorten it to short communications. They want the material, but they do not have the printing space because printing costs money. Very good journals don't ask you to pay. Okay, good journals do not require you to pay. You print or you publish free of charge. So one way to evaluate if the journal is good is by whether it's paid or not paid. Okay, very straightforward. Okay, so why did I end up here? Rules of writing. Yes, the printing pages, the money. Okay, so writing a thesis is much more easier. Basics are the same. Writing paper is much more harder. Why? Concising of the information that you have into the few pages, and therefore the printing page that you have, yeah, is having high cost. It's having high cost, and therefore your structure has to be as clear, as concise, and as good as possible. I'll use the word good covers everything. So, of course, in every writing, structure must be there. All of you, I'm sure, you know what is structure. You have an introduction, you have a body, you have a conclusion. You cannot run away from that kind of structure. Title, body, conclusion. Okay? Title, body, conclusion, title, body, conclusion, title, body, conclusion. It works with the whole thesis. Chapter 1, introduction. Chapter 5, conclusion. In the middle, body. It works with your paper. You start with an introduction, you have a conclusion. You cannot run away. But what I want to stress on is, in every part of that body itself, the title itself, the conclusion itself, it also needs to have introduction, body, and conclusion. Right? Say, for example, you're writing on a chapter 2, literature review. It's a body by itself. In the body, you need to introduce and the body and the conclusion. So, you will see as in the literature review or in the introduction. Literature review means the thesis. Introduction refers to maybe the literature part of a paper. Okay? One is maybe 20 pages, another one is maybe just 1.5 to 2 pages. In both of this, you need to have introduction, body, and conclusion again. So if you are introducing, say, in my field, methods of reducing moisture content, I think this is common. All the food that we have got high moisture content. If you don't reduce them, they get spoiled quickly, therefore you cannot consume, and then you have big loss. So say if you want to introduce about your research, which is drying using microwave, okay? You have to introduce first, what is drying? Why do we need drying? That is introduction. And then you get into the different methods of drying and you be specific, why is microwave drying studied here? What are the pros? And in conclusion, what methods therefore you choose in your research and why do you omit the rest? So what I'm saying, in conclusion itself, there is also an introduction, there is also a body, there is also a conclusion. So everything must have that structure. So if you ask me, an engineer, we are very good at that because we have been trained to see things as structure. So compared to what I can comment from the materials coming back to my students, their writing has no such flow. Reason because maybe experience is not there. Another main reason is greatly affected by what are their references. Say if they refer from this material, they do their best to combine all the materials and put it in their writing. Oh my, how do they flow? Because we are just collecting the stamps. Okay? So it will be very good if you have read 15 papers and you want to say something about it, put that 15 papers aside, sit down and think. Okay? My main agenda, my main message is this. How am I going to put it out for people, another person, listener, okay, another reader, yeah, to continue reading, finish reading that 1-2 page. Okay? So the way you write it must have some elements of your own opinion, or some critics, or some we call layout. How you lay it out. You know, when the orang how do you call orang besar, those are the people, delegates. You know, sometimes when they come to officiate certain thing, they put the red carpet and they walk on the red carpet, right? It's very easy, right? You just follow the red carpet and you walk very easily, and they have all of the attention and so on and so forth. Okay. But if the red carpet is not there, he might not know where to go. Because when he goes into the function, it's so big, yeah, no one leads, okay, and he only walks that path with the red carpet. Same thing when you write, imagine the carpet. Imagine the carpet. Lead your reader into what you want to say, what is your message. Okay, this red carpet is very important. Don't just tell him 10 things and he concludes, I have 10 things. It's not very good writing. Okay, I don't feed you with all the information because I can find the information myself. Why do I need to read what you write? I can read based on the primary authors. Okay, you know what is primary and secondary authors? Then you refer to one paper, that paper refer to another paper. Okay, primary, I can refer to them. Why should I refer to you? Okay, so flow. Many times I say flow. To me, flow is the most important thing to show the maturity of your content. If you yourself cannot flow, cannot make the idea flow, that means you don't see it yet. This is what I see. Next, style and language. Style and language gets back to flow of ideas. Now, the flow here refers to structure. Structure is something physical. It's just like a road. It's just like a red carpet that helps you. Style and language is the software. Okay? If you are not using correct, accurate words, okay, your message don't get across even though the road is there. Okay? So, English is very important. English is really important. At the end, I'll put up some slides to show you why misuse of inaccurate words create so many problems in the flow of your idea. Okay, a lot of times you are writing from the side of author. What you have in mind, you put it in writing. Try to put yourself on the other side as a reader. If you haven't done the experiment, you know nothing about moisture content. Can I straight away jump to microwave drying? I cannot do that. I must introduce the basics. Why is moisture content related to drying so connectedly, for example? And the other one, I have picked up all these ideas, these main ideas in writing, specifically for journal. As you see in the structure, there is subtitle. Now, in thesis, you can have all the freedom to do any subtitle you like as long as the contents reflect it. But in journal writing, paper writing, subtitle is more than that. Subtitle which are concise and reflective and also reflects novelty will be given attention. So you have to devise. Writing thesis, you cannot just cut, copy and paste. It doesn't work that way if you want to submit it to a tier 1 journal. Yeah? Even though that content is that thing, sit down and ponder other ways to revise the title to make it innovative sound. Okay? So subtitle. And with style and language, I have put another two item there. Abstract and conclusion. Abstract and conclusion is super important for journal. Okay, you are only given maybe 300 words in general, yeah, across all papers. 300 words to describe about your paper. In conclusion, maybe 200 words or so. So you just imagine how important, what sort of message needs to be there. That means to say, every sentence that you have in your paper must have a function. It is not meant for fillers, as in the thesis, you find, you put in this line, you find, you put in these words, yeah, to make a thesis thicker, to make that chapter longer. No. In journal, in papers, if you are using materials from thesis in your paper, you are actually working very, very, very hard to concise it. How can I describe methods and materials of 4 pages in my thesis in just one paragraph and still not losing its content? That is exactly what you have to do. Okay? So, I started off with the abstract and conclusions because every sentence weighs. Every sentence is important. Okay? So that goes also to its introduction, to its materials, methods, and also to its results and discussion. Because papers need to be very concise and printing is expensive. Say if you want to print in an Elsevier journal, you just imagine if you request one figure to be colored, how many USD do you have to pay, do you know? If you want one, is this recorder? Yes. Oh, I didn't know. And I'm standing here, it's recording. Okay, so it's supposed to record what I'm saying there, is it? Yes. Oh, I shouldn't talk so loud on certain things then. They should inform me. This is my rights. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. It's pure academic sharing, okay? Yeah. Never mind, you will record my slide. So what is this thing doing here? Where am I? Yeah. So if you want one figure to be printed in color, you are paying around, range depending on journal, 200 to 800 USD. So if you times with the RM, it becomes like 3.3. So it's how much? It's a lot of money. You cannot afford it. If you can, you do not want to afford it. Same thing as lecturers also. So we will choose printing in print, no color, because you pay for that. But online, it can be on color. So now we just choose online. Online on color, you don't need to pay. So what I'm saying is printing cost is very, very expensive. So when printing cost is very expensive, you cannot have lengthy things in your paper. Yeah? Shorten it, shorten it. Every sentence way. Okay? Do not put a sentence like the papaya is a very delicious and important fruit in the region of Southeast Asia. You don't need that. Remove it. But in thesis, yes. In thesis, yes. Okay? And the third element of a very good writing is in its format. Now, format is a first impression. How good your writing is. If you tell me this paragraph is not, what do you call that? You adjust the sides. Some are indented, some are not. So, if you give me an article, some are in, some are out. If you give me a table, okay, some have got double spacing, some have got single spacing. If you give me table captions, some have table 1 a full stop, some have table 1 no full stop. What do I think about your work? I do not have that much time to see further. I will just leave it behind, move it to the next. Because for any journal, the rejection rate is easily 75%. So I have plenty more. I have more choices. Why should I choose yours? Why should I spend so much time on looking at yours at the first place? So it is your job. Yeah. Moreover, you are a student. If you are not neat and tidy in your own writing, don't expect a supervisor to do it for you. He won't. He won't. Okay. So citation, references, figures, and tables are the main thing. Never ever in thesis, okay, write a citation there and in the reference it's not there. It's wrong. It's wrong. Okay, I see some of you smile and laugh. You are doing it. Okay, you will say, okay, by accident, oh, because I was editing the whole day, therefore this mistake occurred. Not a reason to be a reason. Okay, and if in the papers, for example, a review paper will have 50 to 60 references, maybe. A book chapter will have maybe 100 references. Okay, and in a short general paper, you have around maybe 20 to 30 references. Okay, make sure every references is formatted correctly. Okay, in a right sequence, have necessary information. Now, if, of course, you have the format to follow, read the guide to authors carefully. Read. I say 3 times. Read 3 times. Okay, so, yeah, I say that to my own student. Yeah, they will just use the same set of guide for another journal, for this journal. Can you do that? Use the same cover letter from the previous journal which has been rejected for another journal. Yeah. Because for them it's a job. I just want to get it published, I just want to get it done. They never thought, I send this because I want this value. I send to that journal because I want that value and that function. Different. It's just like you looking for a job. All of you could have a job now doing PhD, but the fresh graduates, my students maybe, right? Yeah, they will just use a template to write a cover letter or a curriculum, yeah, but they're applying to all 100 different companies, the same one. You think the boss or the manager will be reading cover letters which are like a standardized form? No. So you must customize it, put something, a phrase or a line here to say, why am I sending it to your journal? What can your journal do? What can your journal benefit out of it, for example? So back to the references, yeah? It has to be very neat, very tiny and all correct. So follow the guide to authors. If some have to have the volume, put the volume, okay? If you cannot find the materials, find it until you find it, okay? Because some of you are referencing a secondary reference, primary reference. The rule of writing is to get back to the primary authors, okay? And there are softwares to help you, okay? Things like an EndNote are you using, Reference Manager, and there are many more, okay? I grew up with EndNote, but the trouble using EndNote is you have to build your library, okay? Now I do not have that time now because I'm not a student now to really build my own library. So with my own writing now, it's more or less what that I can fit in. So for you, especially writing thesis of about 200 pages, yeah, maybe you spend 1-2 months learning about the reference manager or the EndNote. It will bring you better life when you do editing and then make changes to your writing. By just one click, everything is generated correctly, provided that you keep it correctly. Now I have marked as examiner to some of the thesis, right? So I asked them, do you use this kind of aid software to help you? They say yes, but it's giving a lot of problem. Why? Because simply it's a software, it's not as good as human. So they say that's why I'm not using it. To me, if I were to answer that student, I would say because you didn't do it correctly. And now you say it's not as good as human, that means after using it, you have to use your manual eye to check it and correct it. How can you expect it to be perfect? Because they are just all programming and syntax. Right? So, for paper, you just have 20-30 references. Can't you check one by one to make sure that they are correct and they exist? Don't leave hanging pages number 10 until how many, because I do not have the primary reference, therefore I do not know. Yeah? Internet is so easily available. Just check, and put it in. So those are the things that we need to take note. So in manuscript preparation, the bodies are like this. Title. Now what makes a manuscript, what makes a paper good? Title. For me, the title must not just be plain. It has to reflect some novelty. What is the contribution? So you give a gist to some of the ideas. What is so special about this academic contribution? This research contribution. Okay? Try to think. You may be writing your paper for 1-2 months. Okay? You only find the title after writing everything. Same thing with thesis. You could be working on your research for 3 years. Just at the end of the writing, the last 2 months, you found, oh, this is the best description of my work, therefore you use it as a title. So remember, don't go plain like something on something. Yeah? A lot of times, try to gear towards the positiveness and the benefits. People will pay attention. In abstract, it has to have a structure, but very condensed. Overall, and also quantitative. Overall means it has to cover everything in a sentence or two, and it has to be quantitative. Now for us in the science, yeah, in the engineering, for example, if I say this process is better, how much better? 20% better? Or 20% faster? Slower? Now it must come with something that you can quantitate, measurement. Okay? Don't say, I'm happier today, but because the weather is brighter. So if you are speaking from the engineering point of view, I'm 30% happier today because the light is brighter by 50%. Okay? Now take this very odd example, you'll remember it. And then introduction. Introduction, I will use the example of stamp collecting. Just don't put all the information because I have done my homework. This is what is happening and this is what the scenario. Not like that. You have to put in elements where you judge why this work is necessary, some of your own comments, and at times, if you can't do it up to that level, a little review. Okay, put some review feature. In materials and methods, short but complete. Short but complete. The example that I used just now is concising material methods from maybe 10 pages into just half a page. Now, how to concise such a long thing to such a short paragraph? It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. So you must learn how to use the word no. You must learn how to evaluate, is this necessary, is this not necessary? One guide rule of thumb you can do is asking, without this information, can the experiment be repeated? Without this information, can the data be complete? Ask along that line. Okay? So, things that you do not need, omit, but do not sacrifice on the flow. Description of flow, of what steps have been taken for the experiments. Okay? Now, the way to go about this is, if you ask me my experiences, go and get 10 good journal papers and read them. After reading 10, you will have somehow some idea how to go about it. Don't start fresh, brand new yourself. I couldn't do it also when I was new. Okay? Results and discussion. Plain writing is this thing goes up, this thing comes down, this thing shows this thing shows that. So it's like iterating something which is like quite monotonous. Yeah? Not interesting, not interesting. As I said, your work shows contribution. So after showing this, what does it say? What does it prove? Yeah? What does it introduce? Okay? If your work is still very young at this stage, you can always bring in the element of this, introduce this, suggest. Okay? Of course, for good journal papers, editors look for things that have been proven. Okay? If you say the moisture content decreases with temperature, understood, right? It's quite a real phenomena which is okay. But if you can prove why with temperature increase, your moisture content reduced, okay? And then you can show some proof on the water molecule. Okay, you can have some very accurate images of water movement. That is called the proof. Okay, in a thesis, you can have the entire chapter just to show all the water movement, all the snapshots happily because it's a nice result. It's proving results. Proving results are more. For senior researchers, we like it much more than a displaying result. We want proving results. So to transform that proving result from one chapter into just 3 slides, because you have limited spaces for publication, therefore you only select certain slides that actually demonstrate that. Okay? So remember, proving results, supporting results are very important, not just displaying results. Okay? Display alone is not attractive. Next, conclusion. Conclusion gets back to the main idea, but don't repeat anything in the abstract. Okay? And don't repeat anything in the text, whether it's results and discussion or introduction. Same thing also with your thesis. And then, lastly, the format. Format in terms of figure, table, citation, and sequencing must be done carefully with passion. Okay? If you are passionate towards what you do, I think you will do it well. Okay? If you say, oh, I just want to get rid of this. Remember, I want to share with you a comment from my student who has been writing for a long, long time. Right? What was said was that, Dr. Chi, I cannot look at this stuff anymore. I have enough of it. If I look at it, well, the description is as though that he will vomit, or he will faint, or he cannot carry on his life, something like that. Okay. Now, some of us might experience such thing. I'm not saying it's wrong. Yeah, it could be correct because working on the same thing, writing on the same paragraph for months and still never graduate from it. Oh, it's not a very good feeling. At times when I was writing, I had that feeling. Okay? At the time, tell yourself, this is a bit side motivation. At the time, tell yourself, okay, get back to your pure intention, try again and again, and there must be a way. There must be a way. Because when they spend so much time in the writing, they feel like vomiting when you see writing. They have no interest at the citation anymore. They got no interest checking the list of reference anymore because they are towards cannot sustain for the main part. So what else can you ask for those little things like tables and figures? No. Now one trick to do, maybe you are already doing it, okay? You follow your mood, your style. Today you feel like you have a business to write. Give yourself some challenge, do on the tougher part. But today you're not feeling well, say for example you have some headache. You cannot think. Yeah? You cannot progress much in the main text. Go and open up your Excel, click all your figures, rearrange them, make sure that they're consistent, check on reference. You don't need to think, right? To do those things, you don't need to think, right? Give a head a lighter load, for example. I mean, all these, you adjust yourself because it's you, your body, and your way of working. Okay? So example of good paper, I think you will not see the paper. I do not need to show you the paper. Just go to the internet. In your area of research, go find a few key papers. These key papers will help you a lot in setting your own standard, in setting your own expectation. Okay? If you read all these papers are like this, and when you look at your writing, it's like that. You don't need to give your supervisor, yet you do something to it first before you give it to your supervisor. You can be evaluated yourself. You do not need to give your supervisor and get it back for a number of times. Okay? 5, 10 papers easily, good ones from the internet, you know what are good and what are no good. Yeah? Renowned publishers, those tier 1 journals. Okay, it's 11:10 now. I've been talking for 1 hour. Shall we take a 2-3 minutes break? Then I continue to the execution of paper after you write them. Yeah, what do you do? Manuscript submission and the tips, all that. Okay, we have how many minutes do you want? 3, 5, 5 minutes. Okay, fair. 5 minutes. I'll see you at 11:50. Okay. Hello. Hi there, everyone. I see most of you are happily chatting with new friends. That's good. I also understand most of us have a lot of other important commitments. If you do have to leave because you cannot continue on with us for another hour, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, get the sharing again with your friends, and maybe from the secretariat for the slides if you wish to have. Okay, I'll continue. Back to my main agenda. Targeting to finish 12:30, is it? 11:30.
Sorry, 11.
Oh, okay. That is not very good time adjustment for me because I really thought it was until 12:30. Anyway, it's okay. It's just supposed to be 2 hours, yeah? That means I've talked too much. I'll carry on to manuscript submission. I have to reduce my examples. Manuscript submission. So first of all, before you submit, you have to know where you want to submit it to. Okay? Where you want to submit it to. Which journal. Okay, if you are working in the field that you're working in, more or less you know from yourself, the references that you have, and also from your supervisor. Just if you have some material which is so and so, you're not too sure where you should go through the list. You can find it in the JCR, Journal Citation Reports. They have a full list of all the fields. What are the journals in Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4, including the impact factors and so on. Refer from them. Okay? But the more important thing is, does your material, does your paper suit that journal? So if it is talking about innovative and emerging technologies, are you in that stream? If you are not in that stream, forget about it. So if you are talking about processing and you have something along the line of process that suits, okay? So these are very main things I'm sure all of you know. Field is the main thing. Next, evaluate the ranking. Okay, some of us have been pressurized, okay, published in good places, Tier 1 journals with impact factor and so on. Now, if that comes into picture, just refer to JCR, okay? Also Scopus and Google Scholar, for example, they are very good references. You can easily get lots of information. But me, I am a researcher, I am a lecturer, so I am also bound to all these requirements. But at times, if you have the opportunity, be a bit relaxed. As long as you can publish for the starting point, it's okay. Okay? So sometimes I share with my colleague friends, okay, who really also chisel about publication. I say it's a balance between quantity and quality. So if you really needed the quantity, you go for it, but don't forget about the quality. It should come right after you need the quantity. Okay, as for my supervisor, okay, now the story I gave you, right, for him is just quality. It doesn't need to be quantity. Okay, those lecturers in overseas, they are not so bogged down with quantity, they are more to quality. Therefore, there is no high pressure. You have to publish how many in a year. Okay, now pro and cons, pro and cons is because where we come from and other factors. Now the other thing is, evaluate about the publisher, top and famous. This is what I say. Okay, say Springer, Wheeler, Wiley, Elsevier are the ones, Taylor and Francis maybe are the ones that are very big. So if these big publishers and renowned publishers, if you submit something to them, it's no need, you don't need to pay. Okay? And also what comes along with them is that they are very efficient. Okay? Because they have a different set of people full-time working on this. Okay? And if you send your journal paper, if you go to established conferences, good organizers, you actually do not end up your paper being used by others because it's very professional. Okay? Now, today, okay, as present, most of the journals need to be submitted online. Okay, no more sending by. I remember my professors when I was in undergraduate. This he has to plot all the graphs in a graph paper and send it. Okay, you just think how ancient it is now. No more. Well, I've seen him doing it. You know, the graph paper, the light green and this kind. Oh, that was what it was. So now everything has to be using software now. You know, if you are not good at Excel, make yourself good. If you are not good in Word, make yourself good. There are so many good features in Word that you can take advantage of, like F5 for finding words. Okay, you can use their checkers. So many things. Okay, yeah. If you do not know, go to the tutorials. Tutorials will help you. Okay, you can even create table of contents, list of tables, list of figures. All these will actually save your time and minimize typo and errors. And then, one way to evaluate whether the journal or publisher is good or not is see whether it is a paid or non-paid one. Most of the time, the non-paid ones are better. The ones you have to pay, of course, you pay the cost. I'm just like a middleman helping you to publish, and times they earn money. So, as a lecturer now, maybe with our lecturers here also, you may receive many emails inviting you to publish, but you have to pay. Do you want to publish your thesis to make it into a book? Ah, sounds good. What publisher is that? Why do you want to do that? Do you need to do that? Okay, ask yourself. Okay, there are many emails to my inbox every day asking whether I want to become editor. I can send papers to them. They can publish within 2 months. And I look at them. They are nowhere in the JCR. I forget about them. I just delete them. Okay, so good journals from the very first place, they don't send you such email. So if you receive such an email, 99% they are not very good source. Okay, but some of us do reply and get to those things. Yeah, what I mean is, be careful, because we are scholars. Okay, not scholars. We publish, we are authors, so we try to protect ourselves sometimes. So this kind of plagiarism thing, when you send to them, you do not know what they do, and they may suggest you to go somewhere else. Okay, maybe there is 1 or 2% that are genuine. Yeah, but do you have such a time and experience to evaluate those? I don't have, so I forget about them. If you have, and if you have example of good outcome of this route of publication, well, you can share it with your friends, but I'm a bit pessimist there is such a route. So, this is an example page of a manuscript submission. You'll find that once you log in, you have username and password. Okay, remember the username and password, don't forget, because they go by detection of email address. So when you submit, you just click on submit new manuscript. Okay, and then there will be a list of items that you have to do. Okay, load and so on, yeah, to complete the submission. So if you are not familiar with online submission, you try to do it. I'm not sure about your system with your supervisor. Well, it's 11:30. Do you mind stay another 10-15 minutes?
Yes.
I'm sorry I exceeded the time. It's my time management. I actually thought it was maybe 12:30. It's okay. I try my best to wrap up in the 15 minutes. Talking about this manuscript submission, I do not know what is the system that you work with your supervisor. Get that clear. Okay, if you write paper, are you the corresponding author, or are you the first author, or are you which one, our author? Get that right. I think most lecturers don't mind about it. Okay, sometimes you leave the corresponding author to your supervisor because down the road, after your paper is published, there will be many researchers emailing you asking, what is this, what is that? Can you answer? You want to answer? If you don't want to answer, leave that to your supervisor. Because like our friend here just now, she's saying she's doing PhD, but she's not going to continue in academic. So we do not want the information just to die down at that paper. So if your supervisor is going to continue for another 20-30 years, you let her handle it. Okay? Something like that. But if you want to become a corresponding author, no problem. If you become a corresponding author, you have to look at all these things. Okay, that means be familiar, because some of students who are not very familiar with online submission, they will just click, 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 then they get unloaded everything, but they don't click the submit, so it's still not submitted yet. Because it's a long list, yeah. Because sometimes on the internet, the line is slow. You spend like half a day loading all the information. Oh, I finally have all ticks. I'm done. They actually don't process it until you click the submission button. So now, this is the list. See, once you started a new entry, you will see select article type, enter the title, add and remove authors. So they have individual box and things. You have to click, select it one by one. If it's a new co-author which is not in their database, then you have to search. Then you have to type in. Understand? Okay, then you have keywords, select classifications, enter comments, and finally attach the file. Attach the files means the manuscript that you work on, most of the time, Microsoft Word, okay, and a cover letter. Yeah? Be bold, be nice, put out a cover letter, okay, don't just submit, no head, no tail, okay, expect, it's courteous manner thing kind of, just to introduce that why you want it to be there in the journal. After you submitted, okay, submitted means click the button of submit, not uploading complete, clicking the button of submit, you will see that the submission is being processed. So when the submission is being processed, the chief editor will assign it to sub-editors, and they will be given number. Most of the time it's denoted by which year, paper number, how many, and they will notify you, okay, if it is being handled. So if you open the window here, okay, for example, in this journal, you will see that this is a submission date and what is the status. It will be under review. Okay? When it's under review, it can be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 10 months, 12 months. Yeah? Sometimes, if there is a problem with the review, it can take up to more than a year. Simply because I also sit at the editorial of one of the journal. So what is the problem, if you ask me? We cannot get good reviewers. Because all these journals are peer review. Peer review means somebody of your same level, somebody of similar level, another lecturer, another professor review. And this reviewing job, right, it's not paid. Our friend here also said, well, it's no monetary reward, so it's not attractive. So who wants to do it? Okay, we have to find our own time on top of what, and that is not coming with monetary reward. Although there are some rewards, I started off with reviewing many papers, and then now I know how to evaluate papers, and now that is why they ask me, can you become the sub-editor, for example. So the reward is not instantaneous, but for people who are in academic, well, it's an experience that it comes along slowly. So you will see this under review. So every now and then, my student who is quite excited about their work, I say, I do not know, you just go on. I give them the username and password, you say, go and check what is the status, under review, or under revision, whatsoever. The thing will change. As long as your sub-editor take the action on it, the status will change, the date will change. Say 2 reviewers came back and then reassigned to more editors, you will see the status date keep on updating. As long as you see the status date is moving, you are safe. If the status date has not been moving for 2 years, it's a problem. Okay? Whether it's under review but the date is moving, that means the progress is still taking place. Okay? Now, this is a page to show you that reply has been given back to you. Okay? These are the comments. Okay? And please revise. This is not reject. This is asking you to revise. So if you do it correctly, you address all the issues, your paper will be accepted or another revision if it is required. So submission meaning revision. So from this big heading you see, this is for new submission. This is for revision. So revision will go through a same set of process which is being assigned to different reviewers, and reviewers will see what is your comment, what have you made the changes. And then you will see here, oh, it's not seen here. You will see here, okay, manuscript under review, you will see it has got the same manuscript number, okay, but there is an R here. R means review 1, review 2. Okay, you can revise the thing and submit it back online. So this is a paper review that comes in the form of email feedback to you. You have to change this. Yeah, these are the comments. So how to revise your paper? How to revise the paper? They will give a set. Okay, either they put it in the email or they put it as attachment. Open up carefully. Okay, take a deep breath before you look at it. Sometimes it could be agreeing point. Sometimes you have things like you don't agree at all. Now, you want your paper to be published, so as much as possible, try to address and make them happy, okay, with professionalism, okay? So, each comment will have to be answered. When I say each comment will have to be answered, don't just give an answer to reply. The answer has to really answer the question. Encik Farid, saya exit timescape. Boleh? Okay, so some of my students, what they do is they have the box. Every comment, they have the real comments. Then they type something, they put something, they put something. But what they put is not answering what they want. Okay? So don't do that because this will make the reviewer unhappy. I have spent so much time giving you the comments, expecting you to change, and you are telling me a different thing or you are not doing it, but you are just trying to find way out about it. This is not very inviting for the examiner. For example, I mark my students' thesis, okay? I ask them to change this, and that. At the end of it, they don't change, they just delete the whole thing. How do you feel? That happens, yeah, very frequently, okay? Find a way to answer. So a lot of times when you reach this stage, as you are still a student, you haven't got the right experience or enough experience, if you can't do it, get a supervisor to help you. Okay? At this stage when it is asked for revision, your chances of getting it published is actually 70-80%. Okay? So what happens if you get a journal being rejected? So what you can do is you can send it to other journals. Okay? What you can do is upgrade first and then downgrade. Okay? Very seldom you can upgrade and upgrade. What it means is, now with the comments given, there are some truth. There must be some truth. Otherwise people will not say it or people will not comment it that way. So you improve the paper. Okay? Upgrade the paper. Make the quality better. And then you send it to, from the first tier, you send it to the second tier journal. So you just imagine, you have upgraded it, improved it, and then you send it to a lower quality journal. Should it get accepted? You will have improved your remember I say rejection rate is like 75%. You are now decreasing the rejection rate to about 60%. Okay? You find that I always use numbers, right? We are trained to be very quantitative. So, if the paper has been accepted, okay, it will go through a stage where we call proofread. A set of questions asks you to verify something. Now, this can come in a different form. Different journals will have different requirements. This journal, for example, they want, whenever I use the equipment is in Malaysia, they want the city where it is made. Some country is enough. But in general, there's a rule of thumb. When you prepare the manuscript itself from the very beginning, you need to follow the academic writing requirements. So proofread is a very important stage because that is the very last time you can make small changes to it. And you also check with the typesetting. Sometimes they typeset it for you. For us, we have many equations with many symbols. Okay, people typesetting it do not know what the symbols means, and when they change it using the software, things change and your equations become wrong. And you do not want that wrong equation to stay there because next day when you become professor, oh my God, right? So that is the very final stage. You check very carefully on every small little thing. Usually, it's typesetting problem. So now this is the example of where it goes with the comments. They will tell you exactly, very specific. And there is also another stage where it's called copyright transfer. Okay, so you read the set of rules. Okay, especially in the Western countries, if you publish, a lot of times you do things for yourself, for your organization, or for a certain paid funding or anything. Yeah, you have to take that. So if you have published, send your paper to that particular place for publishing, okay, you actually give copyright to them. Copyright is not so yours. Sometimes it belongs to the publisher. If you want to reserve it to be yours, okay. But if we are working in a university again, it also maybe belongs to the university and not us, because we are paid to do the job. Okay, this is the URL, website where you can read more about academic writing and publishing. Of course, just by the 2 hours talk, it will not help much unless you start doing it and practicing it. Exercise it out. These are just tips. But actually down to it to work it out. I'll send the slides to the secretariat. I think they have all your email details, right? If you want, you request from them. If we search in the internet, you just search James Hartley academic writing, or not just James Hartley, any academic writing. If you feel that reading material is suitable for you, just read it. Yeah, certain books are more for certain people. If you think this is social science, it's a very good approach, then you refer to it, or maybe that's not. So I'm finished here, but here are some examples from my students' work. Previously, I didn't have this kind of slides, but maybe when I marked this, I said, I should use this as an example. Okay, these are general examples, just don't do because this is not very good. Okay, if you use abbreviation, yeah, just don't. The abbreviation come out by itself. You know what is DE, the people in your field knows, but you have to study correctly. The very first time, use a full word, then only use abbreviation. So now, even that you have the abbreviation in your chapter 2, okay, in thesis, when you go to chapter 3, the first time you use it, use the full name again. Don't use straight away DE, short. Understand? The first time you go into results and discussion, use the full name again. Now, there is no right or wrong of this kind of practice. It is just being different. So this is what I follow, and this is what I suggest. And again, up to you. If you find it's good, you pick it up. So never start something like this, okay, without any introduction. And I noticed that students like to use connective words. My English, I don't graduate in English, but I use the word connective words. Means those words to connect, like subsequently, despite, thereby. Please, if you publish paper, yeah, try to reduce if there is no function to it, because you're just adding words. And some of you, my students, okay, they use it freely as though they think it makes it better, but actually it makes it worse, okay? So you will see amongst which, you see, if I reduce, if I throw away those words, my sentence is still correct, my meaning is still intact, not affected at all. Therefore, throw it away. Don't use it. Okay? Now, according to Nyuk, for example, this is very common. You can tell me, Dr. Jin, the good papers that I refer to also like this. Why can't I do it? Okay, I said if you really insist you want to do it, but this is what I think. Don't do it. Okay? Now, you say according to Nyuk. Did Nyuk tell you by his mouth? No, he didn't. You don't know where he is, so you don't need to say according to Newton. Just say Newton found. According to Newton, he found that, it's very lengthy. Yeah, you can save a lot of words from that. Okay? However, although, you see, every line has got this, it's not very good, okay? Now, this is for the sake of learning and improving academic purpose, okay? Not so much to criticize, but only if we are open to our flaws, we progress. Okay, I put that in note. And in abstract, okay, this is an example of how lengthy sentences and no function not to be there. Okay, because I'm running out of time. Yeah, so I go through very quickly. As long as you get the idea abstract, don't put unnecessary sentences there. Okay. Now, the is very important. I'm not teaching English. My English is also, okay, so. Okay. Don't use too many does when you do not need to use the. And when the needs to be there, it needs to be there. It's because it's very important from the reader's point of view, whether you are pinpointing what. Okay? So, to minimize the fruit waste, for example. Fruit waste is general, you do not need to say that waste. Okay? The essentially means that particular one. So if you want to pinpoint to that particular one, you use the. Okay, so the problem here is the the needs to be there, please be there. If it doesn't need to be there, remove it. You see, there's so many the in one sentence. Everything has got a the. Okay. And then sharing session, yeah. Okay, about the word using and following. After reading so many pieces, I find that students like to use using. Okay, this was done using this was done using that. Okay, if you are actually using the equipment, yes, you use it. But if you follow people's material, you follow people's method, it's following, you follow that person. So using and following means differently. Okay, in our science and experimental based writing, we have a lot of problem with using and following. Okay, another one is, if you look at the example and I explain in detail, you'll find it very exciting. But in general, I cannot do this. I just can put a stress on this point, the importance and what you have to look out for. So for this one, on, in, and off, they really mean different. Don't use them interchangeably. They mean different. Okay, so ponder about it. This on, in, and off, not as when and then you like which one you use. I have enough off, so I use in. For example, there's this title where we're thinking the effect on something using that 3 ons in the title. So we are trying to reduce the on. Of course, it's right to reduce the on, but when you change the on to off, it means different. So we have to be careful about that. Hanging sentence. You see, yeah, don't start a sentence with because of the high demand of the fruit. Yeah? Do you start sentence with because? It's no. Basic rules, okay? Clearer sentence, yeah? When you write a good literature search or introduction, you always go into the point of elaborate, okay? It is good in what sense? It is better, how? Okay? Then it becomes more descriptive, clearer sentences. And then sentence and structure, the subject. When you want to put a point forward, ask yourself, what is the point? Is my point in the subject of my sentence? Say, if I want to say color deteriorates with temperature, or temperature affects color, both of these sentences have the same information. But if my study is on color differing, then I put my color as subject. If I'm talking about temperature has many effects, one of it is to color, then I put temperature as my subject. So the flow becomes better whereby the reader get the message easily, like a red carpet. So sentence structure as simple as possible, okay? Yeah, short ones, yeah, you do not need to have lengthy, yeah, is to send contents, not to show English. Okay, and tenses. Many students ask me, should I use future or past tense or present tense? Now this one is variable answer. So if you're describing something which is common, the sky is blue. Okay, yeah, every day the sky is blue, then it is. Okay, but if you're referring to, yeah, there was a storm yesterday, but the sky was blue even though there was a storm. So you say the sky was blue when the storm came. Something like that. Okay, so never use future tense unless you're recommending something in the future. Now all these are very basic things, okay? Some of you already know, but it's good because I find so much problems with the students writing a play. Now, you are in the field, you know what is right and wrong, okay? Scientific name, for example, consistency. Consistency here referring to if you talk about the color first, then you talk about moisture content, then you talk about the brightness. So you always follow the same sequence, okay? Whether it's in material and methods, you describe about color first, then the moisture content. Then in results and discussion, you also describe about the color first. So system, you see the structure and everything becomes systematic. And people who read, easy to follow. Again, the red carpet. Title, okay? Title. Okay, devise the title to make it novel, okay, informative, and at the same time interesting. Okay, that's the end of the slides. Thank you very much for staying back for another 20 minutes. If I can have more time, I'll be happier, but limited. So I hope you have gained much. Any comments from the floor? If you want to say anything, if you want to ask anything? Yes, yes. We have 1 or 2 and then we end the session.
Journal request for revision. After revision, go to the same reviewer or possible.
His question is, does the paper that has been reviewed and resubmitted goes back to the same reviewers? Okay, as editor, I and the common practice is getting back to the same reviewer because we are a fair person, professional. Okay, we understand if it goes to a different set of reviewers, there will be problem in the review comments. Okay. However, sitting at the editor side, sometimes the same reviewer does not want to review anymore, or maybe that person has gone for sabbatical leave, he has gone for holiday, things like that. No choice. If the editor is very kind, he will do it himself. So he knew where was the flow, and you had the mercy. Okay. If we put it onto a set of new ones, so it sometimes brings troubles. Okay. My own experience, I've submitted 1 paper, yeah, that paper took me almost 3 years. Okay, at the end of it, when it went to the third review, a new set of editors, the new set of reviewers, they reject the paper. So after 2.5 to 3 years, the paper has been rejected, even though revision has been done twice. Excellent, okay? That's excellent. Question?
Thank you very much. Now, talking about the journal citation report and the quality of the journal you send your manuscript. We had an experience one time. We sent a paper to the publisher. But after sending the paper, we realized that the quality of that journal was not quite commendable. So we wrote officially that we have withdrawn the manuscript. Now, after improving the manuscript for some levels, we found that manuscript published on the net. So what do we do in that?
My own colleague has this problem, exactly the same. So for this answer, what I would say is to prevent this from happening, you actually investigate this before the first submission. Now, if this has happened, it's very unfortunate. And if this happened, it also happens with not so famous publisher. Am I right? Yeah. If it is Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, they will do this. Now, if they are the same thing, it's plagiarism. Okay, well, with that, I thank all of you for your time, and I hope you will have an interesting and a good journey